Watson and Crick, who received the Nobel Prize for the DNA, the form of DNA. Sorry, can you hear that?
No worries. No worries at all.
Let me start this whole answer again because I'm going for weeds.
I'm Aidan Charron. I'm the director of End Plastics Initiative at earthday.org, and this is 22 Minutes with Dianna Cohen. With me today, I'm delighted to welcome Dianna Cohen, the CEO and co-founder of the Plastic Pollution Coalition, an advocacy group dedicated to reducing plastic production, plastic pollution, and growing awareness of the threats that plastics present to wildlife and human health. Dianna has been advocating for 14 years now, and her coalition has coalition members in 75 countries worldwide. It's wonderful for you to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Dianna, you started off college studying biology and pivoted to art, and that's where you discovered plastics. Can you talk us through your plastic art phase and what it is you discovered?
Sure. So originally when I started out at UCLA, I was a biology major. That was for the first 2 years. And during the course of that time, I received a lot of compliments about my drawings that I was doing for lab and things like that. People kept saying to me, "Oh, wow, you could be a scientific illustrator." And I was like, "You don't understand. I'm an artist. I'm a painter. I'm an artist." I didn't have the patience to wait to get a PhD. And so at some point I transferred to the art department. All of this, the background of it is that my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was in middle school and passed away when I was in high school. And the type of breast cancer she had, we were told, was estrogen receptive. That doesn't mean anything when you're a teenager, but I now know that breast cancer and prostate cancer and brain cancer, many of these are estrogen receptive and are impacted or have a link to the chemicals in plastic, but that comes in my life later. And at some point after I graduated from college, I started doing some collage work with brown paper bags. I was deconstructing them, the ones that come from the market, and kind of reconstructing them using text and found imagery on the bags and sewing them using the sewing as a kind of drawing element. So in working with the brown paper bags, at some point I added a plastic bag. And the plastic bag I added had a botanical image of a dandelion printed on it with the name in Latin. And I cut it up and I sewed it into the piece. And I had this total epiphany, like, oh my God, plastic. I didn't know what it was made out of at the time, the material. I just had no idea. And but I found it fascinating, and I started thinking about it, and I started realizing I was surrounded by it. And I also realized that I could make work when I was traveling, even if I didn't really have materials with me. All I needed was even a tiny little sewing kit from like a motel, basically. And I remember one of the first pieces I made, I cut up a bag that was in a drawer that was a shoe shine bag, and I just took the word shine. And I combined it with, like, I think it was a Pepto-Bismol colored pink bag that somebody had gotten something in. And I combined those together and made a piece. And so I embarked on this journey of working with plastic bags as a material in my work. And I thought, this is really fascinating. I didn't know anything about the material. I wasn't thinking about it, wasn't coming to this material in my artwork as an activist. But yeah, I just had a fascination with the material because it was so flexible and malleable. It comes in all these different colors. And again, people print a lot of interesting imagery onto bags, use different kinds of text and font and verbiage on it. And I found that I could cut things up and put them back together and make them, and I could talk about things that were of interest to me. And I began to make that connection that plastic was made out of oil. And so that's really how I started the work, the artwork. This is 33 years later. I've been making work out of plastic bags. I have a total love-hate relationship with the material. Again, I think it's an amazing material. I think at some point there was a fork in the road. I think probably around World War II, end of World War II, right. And just humanity took the wrong path. when we decided that this would be a great material to make all kinds of single-use and throwaway things out of.
You became fascinated with the great garbage patch in the Pacific and how wanted to clean that up, but soon realized you couldn't. What did you do next?
So at that time, when I went back to the drawing board, I now knew a few people who were part of my advisors. We sat down, we started talking, and together we decided to create the Plastic Pollution Coalition. And our idea behind creating Plastic Pollution Coalition, so this was in 2009, was that we wanted to create an alliance or a coalition where a lot of different people and groups and other organizations and even businesses could come together who were all looking at the plastic pollution issue and solutions to it and join together utilizing common language. So that's really was the inception of Plastic Pollution Coalition, where we were a whole group of co-founders together. And we had our launch in 2009. We launched on the same day that Bill McKibbins launched 350.org.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing about that is that we all got together, 40 of us, for a little meeting, a lunch together in Malibu on the beach. And we took a group photo and we held up a sign that said 350.org.
Not quite the plastic pollution sign, not yet.
Well, I'm not even sure that we had a sign yet or a logo. We didn't have anything. I mean, we struggled for days to decide to call it Plastic Pollution Coalition. We tried thousands of other iterations of names, but we finally decided that it was important to call it what it is.
Right.
And in order to correct kind of all of the misnomers and greenwashing of this issue. And to me, that includes marine debris, litter, garbage, waste, rubbish. All of these words are kind of like plastic pollution light, you know? And, you know, when 70 to 90% of marine debris is plastic, it's important to call it what it is. It's plastic. It's plastic pollution.
So what makes plastic so uniquely bad for the planet and bad for these marine systems and just in general? I mean, everybody sees the turtle with the straw on the nose or the seahorse carrying the Q-tip, but beyond that, what makes them so dangerous?
Well, yeah, that's an excellent question. What makes plastics, what makes plastic toxic? What makes plastic so dangerous? The problem with plastics, and I think we should start at the beginning, 99% of plastics in our lives around us that everybody's using that are produced are made from oil and fossil fuels and cracked gas. That's really important to realize because I think the average person has no idea. And I worked with the material as an artist. I had no idea in the beginning that plastic was made from fossil fuels. So you got a problem right there with it. And that problem is that plastic is polluting us from extraction through manufacturing, production. If we're designing single-use things with it, it is polluting us when we eat or drink or use products that have been packaged in it, because potentially microplastics or chemicals from the plastic have leached into our food, our beverages, our beauty products, our healthcare products, our cleaning products. And then especially if it's designed as single use, it's instantly a waste management issue. And for the most part, as waste, that plastic pollution is in some form burnt. So it may be buried or dumped in our environment, and we euphemistically call that landfilling.
Right.
Or it may be burnt, and we have lots of names for that. We call it waste to energy, waste to fuel, and then there's, of course, chemical recycling. There are all of these things that sound like they might be good.
Advanced recycling, it all sounds so positive.
Recycling sounds positive, but only because we have been literally brainwashed by, probably at this point, it's billions of dollars of marketing dollars and advertising to believe that plastic is recycled. And the truth is that plastic was never designed to be recycled, and plastic is still not designed to be recycled. And if you look at the history of the evolution of the Keep America Beautiful or Keep Blank Beautiful initiative, it was created by industry. And it was created by industry to move the responsibility for pollution onto the public, which is so nefarious. I actually find it makes me really angry. And there's that, incredible, very emotional PSA that was produced with an actor portraying an indigenous person who's standing, he's in a canoe, and then he's standing at the edge of a river, and then someone throws like a bag of fast food at his feet on the edge of a highway, and he turns towards the camera and one tear rolls down his face, and the tagline is, "People start pollution, people can stop it." So, it's really a multi-million, if not billion-dollar campaign that persists today. And what you see, it was created in response to the first Earth Day. It flares up all the time. It's flaring up right now. Every time there's bad news about microplastics or mismanaged waste, we see the response from industry is, oh, we're building a new chemical recycling plant. We are going to, ramp up recycling. Their messaging increases around recycling.
Tell me about some communities, the ones near plastic factories. Are they more impacted?
This issue and our use of plastics and single-use plastics and processing this material disproportionately impacts certain communities more than others in a way that is deeply unjust.
Yep.
Deeply unjust. And that can lead to more nosebleeds, asthma, respiratory issues, cancers, fertility issues. The chemicals used to make plastic, and people may have heard of bisphenols, but BPA has probably been studied the most, although I have been told by the head of the endocrine disruption department at the Center for Disease Control that the replacements for BPA are equally bad, if not worse, to BPA. It's been identified as an endocrine disruptor, so it disrupts our endocrine system in our body. And it's been linked to lower sexual function, sterility, infertility, breast cancer, brain cancer, prostate cancer, obesity, and diabetes.
Just to name a few.
Well, for me, any one of these things should be totally alarming for all of us. And yet, look at how prevalent plastic and single-use plastic is. It's so wrong. It's so wrong. And the thing is, people who are lucky enough to live in a more affluent neighborhood, they, if something like this started happening in their neighborhood, or if the water started coming out of the tap and it was all gooky and brown, and I've seen water that's come out of the tap like that for friends who live near Imperial Highway here or Long Beach or the Port of LA. They've brought that water to meetings and said, we're being told that this water is okay for us to bathe in and drink and use to clean our food. And if water came out of the tap like that for 2 seconds in a more affluent neighborhood, it would be repaired as quickly as possible because nobody would stand for it. So the injustice is shocking. It's shocking. And somehow, sadly, not surprising, but shocking. It makes me angry and really upset.
Well, you're hugely successful in spreading the awareness on the dangers of plastic. Like before I started at Earth Day, I followed behind Plastic Pollution Coalition to stay up to date on plastic news. It wasn't something I thought I would be fascinated in when I first left college, but after learning about all the dangers and all the effects of it, I really, started paying attention. But from that, what are you most proud of, and does anything stand out in these past 15 years?
When you ask me what I'm proud of, here's the evolution, just to give you the picture. Here's the evolution. In 2009, 2010, if you went to the Plastic Pollution Coalition website, plasticpollutioncoalition.org, you would find a page that said, get started. And there would be a one-pager that said, how to start a bag ban in your town. And then about a year or two later, we added how to start a polystyrene ban in your town. They were just one pagers to help get people started. Those have evolved into the Global Plastic Laws database. Another tool that we helped create, which came originally out of the Google Food Lab and working with the Lexicon for Sustainability, is called the Understanding Packaging Scorecard. That one is upscorecard.org. And I should say Global Plastic Laws is globalplasticlaws.org if anybody wants to use those tools or take a look at them. So the UP scorecard, the Understanding Packaging Scorecard, was created when we identified again a tool that was necessary to help businesses make smarter choices about food packaging, particularly focused right now on to-go packaging like cups for hot and cold beverages, food packaging, utensils, etc. But a lot of it thinking about the to-go or food on the move industry. And we were able to create that tool, which now is a standalone site, with folks from Sodexo, Aramark, Compass at Google, Subway, the Food Packaging Forum, which is one of our coalition members. And what was wonderful about creating that is it's the first tool that not only looks at 6 different parameters, but one of them is it looks at climate impact, but then it also looks at plastic not by weight, because plastic is very lightweight, so often wins when you look at it only by weight, but looking at the amount, so the quantity of plastic or plastic pollution created by the packaging. And then the most important parameter that it looks at is chemicals of concern. So it's the first tool that looks at chemicals of concern in making these recommendations. So you can go in and use the tool for free and do comparisons of packaging, or put into it the packaging that your business is using and then do a comparison, and it will make recommendations for materials. Did I go too far in the weeds? Sorry.
No, that was great. It kind of leads directly to my next one is, are you hopeful we can solve the plastic problem? And what keeps you going? I mean, I read tons of bad news all the time about plastic. I listened in on the negotiations for the Global Plastics Treaty. Like, what keeps you motivated, and what are your hopes?
I'm not sure why I wake up every day feeling hopeful about this issue. I think it's because the more you learn about it, the more you feel empowered to make different choices. So I think that this is an issue that works at the personal level, at the family level, in your home, and then it extends to your school, your place of work. You know, it's something that schools are looking at and that can be implemented in schools, plastic-free programs, not poisoning our children. In businesses, how we deliver things. It's really an infrastructure issue. And then also at the policy and legislative level. So I think that we have a lot of tools to address this. I'm passionate about it because I can see that we are having an impact. When we created the coalition back in 2009, Plastic Pollution Coalition, nobody called this plastic or plastic pollution. So when you ask me what I'm proud of, I recognize what we've achieved so far. And what we've achieved so far is to help raise awareness and consciousness about the issue, about the material, about the impact and the damage of this material. There's much more information now about the impact to our health, and we better understand that plastics and microplastics are infiltrating and being found in human lungs, lung tissue, in our hearts, in our bloodstream, in placenta on the mother side and the baby side, in our brains. It's really important to understand that not only are we ingesting a credit card's worth of plastic a week, but we're also additionally inhaling a credit card's worth of plastic a week. And to begin to better understand and have an awareness around microfibers and microplastics and now nanoplastics and what those are potentially doing to our health. I get excited about that. So the biology major, the person who's interested in biology and me and science and how the natural world works and our bodies function is very interested in that. And I don't mean to sound like I'm excited to learn that there's a new health issue, linked to plastics. But the more we learn about this, the more it becomes obvious that plastic and the ways that we use it, so many ways that we use it, that plastic is a toxic substance and that we need to address this through policy, legislation, and at the highest levels, at the city level, at the state level, at the federal level. There's the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act and the Right to Repair Act. We need to stop designing with intended obsolescence. Hello, Apple. And, come up with universal things and ways to take things back and utilize them again that doesn't involve breaking them apart, shredding them, melting them, and reforming them, because that uses so much energy. And why would you do that with a glass bottle when you could sterilize it and refill it locally? Which is what, again, was happening during my grandparents' life and also even when I was a kid. Happy Earth Day, a happy Earth Month, a happy Earth year on this Earth ocean planet that we live on, this beautiful blue planet. And come on, let's make it plastic free.
Thank you again, Dianna. I really appreciate it.